Welcome to the Limitless Human Podcast. We are your hosts, Natalie
and Cassandra. The mission of our podcast is to help you to honor your human experience on your journey to living your limitless potential.
We release episodes every other Tuesday. We would love it if you would rate and review our podcast, as well as follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Limitless Human Podcast.
We're excited to do a little catch-up session today as we haven't been recording for a couple weeks and lots has happened. So we're recording on October 4th, which means that the eclipse kind of season has come to a close with the solar eclipse happening a few days ago. And it's just been a very interesting energy, and a lot has been coming to the surface in terms of karma to create a big completion energy. I know that that's how it's been for me. I had a launch like maybe about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, and it went amazing. And then after that, it became very clear of certain ways of being in business, certain parts from the past, personally and professionally, that came up that were coming up to clear. And I actually had a Voxer day with my coach yesterday. And there was this big theme about acceptance and expectations and projection of expectations and how that fits into manifesting and setting goals. And it was just a very interesting conversation that made me realize that there's a very important understanding about manifesting and setting goals that is really important, because I was finding myself creating these goals and then expecting, having this expectation, having this attachment to the outcomes in which that it was coming from. And prior to this launch, I kind of set an open goal and felt detached from it, but yet it was interesting how that airplane mode of expectations and attachment were a big part of it. So having that become clear was very interesting. As Natalie and I, before we're talking kind of about planners. Like, I used to be an over planner. I would have every single thing mapped out. And with that, I felt very attached to my vision and felt very attached to everything going the way that I thought it would. And it's interesting, that used to be my airplane mode. I thought I had cleared it, but seeing that residual essence come through lately, and being complete with that version of self that was so consumed and attached to everything that I saw as my vision. Because it's an interesting thing when you're a spiritual person and have a little bit, I would say, of psychic gifts. I don't know if I really publicize that, lean into that, but I always have this higher vision and see the highest timeline, especially with people that I'm working with and supporting. So it's really interesting to lean into, hey, this is a possibility. Hey, this would be fun if this happened. Hey, this is something that I desire. But then also being open to how the process of it unfolding. So that was an interesting theme that came up yesterday. And just acknowledging that I'm in this energy right now of, I'm a cardinal sign, and there's this big thing happening for cardinal signs right now up until November 20th, that like all of this karma is clearing. And it's interesting that this eclipse kind of had a similar theme, especially with Libra. Libra being the sign that this eclipse was in, and that's my moon sign. So I've really been going through and taking an inventory of, hey, I'm calling in a new beginning, and I'm creating a blank slate for myself, and really acknowledging the ways of being, elements from my past, stuff from childhood has been coming up. A lot of like these deep themes that are coming up to bubble up and be cleared. So I have a blank slate for this new chapter. So I know that was kind of long-winded, but that's kind of what the past couple weeks has been like for me.
No, I love that. I think that the energy, particularly of this last week, has been really intense. I'm going to work at not swearing because it's been holy moly. And so I love that, your experience, and, even through challenges, stress, overwhelm, uncertainty, that the things that have cleared away for you that have created more of a foundation or more clarity around your foundation and what you want to build off of. And I feel like it's kind of similar. I mean, I always find it fascinating where we have parallel, very different circumstances, but yet super parallel to what happens.
Yeah.
And, I've been having, I didn't mention this to you before we got on when we were talking about things. I mean, I had a work experience this week that was complete chaos. And I handled it differently than I normally would, and was very proud of myself and recognizing the karma that I cleared in how angry I was and how I normally would respond a certain way. And yet I stepped back. And so there's that piece. What I didn't tell you about is that I've really been feeling into what the heck is going on with my business and what is it really meant to be? Who am I to be building it? Do I want to be? What's coming through? And I've been having thoughts around, I don't want to say necessarily like burning it all down to the ground, but it there seems to be a shift happening, and I don't have clarity around it. And that's okay, because there's like this liminal void space that I feel like I've been in the void for an eon. And I also recognize that my soul basically lives there. So I'm noticing or having more of epiphanies around, I don't need to get out of the void. And it's not really even the point. I basically live there. And so for me, there's a lot of glimpses. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say uncertainty, but places where I don't quite have the full picture. I don't quite know exactly what. And I'll have an inkling of something and I'll go to try to get more information and there's nothing there. So what I've really been recognizing in terms of my own completion of things is where I have this this historical habit of pushing, of trying to grab onto and like, what's the information? What's the plan? We're talking about planning, right? You and I both, you were talked about before about how we're huge planners. And that I've been really practicing more of the release and the leaning back and the surrendering and the trust that I don't have to have all the information right now. And I'm on the path that I'm meant to be on, and trusting that, which means that and I guess my surrender around time, that things aren't happening fast enough. And so when I have this idea that maybe I need to let go of my business, maybe I just need to, like get rid of it kind of thing. There's also this wait, pause, like give it some space. And so the clearing of the foundation for me is I feel like there's more to show up for me. It's not completely cleared, but I am noticing where this eclipse really shook things up. It shook things up for a lot of people. We're talking about us. So for me, it was very much of a, what am I carrying that no longer serves? And I remember, I think it was Wednesday, because I had some really huge information come through at work that was really devastating. And I left work and I cried, and I was in the shower that night. And I've done this a few times with spirit, where I will have this kind of line in the sand, like I'm done. And the co-creation conversation that I have with spirit, that I will have from time to time, I had in the shower on Wednesday. And I was like, look, if you are wanting certain things from me, this is what I'm requiring, right? That the way I get that I need to make some shifts, and I am prepared for that. And also too, like, this is what I need from you. And I'm no longer willing to do it this way. And so whatever you have planned for me, like, this is what I'm going to require for me to be open to it. Right. Because, and I know I'm getting a little long-winded.
No, it's good.
the thing that irritates me the most, I think, and I'm about to go on a soapbox, the thing that irritates me the most when I look at, energy work and spiritual healers is this whole, like, you got to be an energetic match. And what are you blocking? What are you not letting in? And that irritates me. And I can't really explain exactly why, but it gives me a sense of, well, I'm doing it wrong.
Mm.
And I just need to be different. I need to change. I need to do more. I need to heal more. I need to, and yes, that is part of journeying through our life, is growing and evolving and um deepening our knowing with ourselves. But I feel like there's this, well, you're just not a match yet,
Mm.
as in there's something you need to do different. And I kind of had this moment with spirit, like, no, you need to do something different. Like, you're what you're expecting of me, the way that you want me to have it, like, I'm content with how I am and how I'm doing things. And I'm ready to receive. And I know that I am. And so whatever's happening, like, I need you to change. So I don't know. That's kind of where I was. That's what felt when through this eclipse. I had this moment of, like, you know what? No, I'm content the way that I am. And if you want me to be in my business full time, I am not willing to take a risk. I'm not willing to just quit my job. I want things to be a certain way with my business for me to feel grounded and secure. And so, no, I'm not going to just leap off the edge. I'm not choosing that. And I shouldn't have to.
Mm. That's powerful because I think it is a very co-creative conversation. And I feel like some of the manifestation conversations is like almost it's like you're waiting for it to happen and like
Hmm.
receive things and magnetize what you want. But it was interesting when you're talking. I saw this like image of like being in this like white room, like vast white space with a bunch of boxes hanging out. And like they're not labeled. And it's like almost this invitation that I was receiving, this channeled message for you is like taking the box cutter and opening them up and seeing what they are and seeing, does this feel like something I want to take into my new chapter? Or is this something that I'm ready to leave behind? And it's interesting again how we always have these parallels. I feel like that's kind of what I've gone through recently is like looking at the projects that I had in my business that were good, were did well, had a beautiful purpose. But like I felt like completion with them. Like I had my own podcast. I felt completion with that. And I had this inkling about this new idea that was coming. Um courses, like this new idea of a course came through, but it's only because I had to like let go of the way that I thought I did things before. Relationships recently this week, I let go of a really significant relationship in my life. And sometimes the lesson of the week is sometimes you have to let go of what is good to create spaciousness for what can be great. And that may be question marks. That may be like, that's gonna look for like, should I really let go of all this good stuff like that I know that is good, that's secure, that's there? But there's this possibility of this greatness that is there to come. So, and I think that's just like an interesting image that channeled down for you is like get the paper cutter, open the boxes. Does this feel like what I want to take into this new chapter? Is this something that I'm ready to tape back up and send off?
Hmm.
So it's interesting, thinking about today, tuning in, what are we going to talk about? I feel like there's such a beauty when it comes to stepping into our limitlessness and our potential is sometimes that we have to create those like real intuitive conversations about ourselves and acknowledge what are some things that are limiting us in this chapter.
Hmm.
What are like the habits, the stories from the past, the ways of being, the relationships, the kind of tie to what we've created up to this point, and really do that like inventory check. Because I keep seeing this new beginning happening in this new version of self that
Mm-hmm.
is just free.
Yeah.
Like when I was doing that support with my coach yesterday, I just start to feel free, acknowledging, okay, I don't need to carry this shit anymore. Like I'm ready for this kind of like image I'm seeing is like this superhero moment, like flying and just going for it moment. So I think it can be so freaking uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
to have to like make those decisions of letting go and stepping out of your stuff and the airplane mode of like the ways of being and releasing like the judgments and just like fully accepting the completion and accepting the way that things are in the present um, before powerfully just taking this big step forward.
Yeah. I that resonates a lot. And I find that I think that one of the things that we as humans, like when we're talking about the planning, right, is and the ways in which I was talking before about the pressuring, is that um, it's okay to not know, but it's also like, where can you like, and I think, sorry, all of a sudden I had like a bunch of stuff just came through all at once.
It's
Um,
okay.
and then all of a sudden just like fly out. I was like, okay, where did that just go? um, the one step at a time, right? Because when you think about it, it's this box image, right? This room box image that you're bringing up. In one way, it could be that, oh my gosh, like I don't even know where to start, or oh my gosh, I don't know what any of this is, or and I think that honoring the human piece is recognizing that it's really overwhelming, and I'm noticing that where with all the things that are coming through for me, all the things that are also unknown, because there's a lot that's coming through. And it's, I could do this and I could do that. And what about this? And what about that? And it can feel debilitating where it is just one step, what's the next right step? What's the next, let's just focus on one box. Like, I don't have to go open all of them all at once, right? It's just one box. And, the first item on top, it's the one step at a time. And, I talk a lot with clients when it comes to overwhelm, because overwhelm says like it's too much and I can't. And so really slowing down and looking at one thing at a time. What's one thing that I can do? What's one step I can take? That, the reminder of we don't have to have it all figured out. And even if that one step leads to more uncertainty, that's okay. And it's not about what we can't do, it's about what you can do. And even what you're open to. When you talk about this openness, it's interesting because yesterday I was talking with a friend, or a colleague friend, and we were checking in with each other, and I was talking about how just really overwhelmed and I'm not sure what I'm doing with my business and I'm kind of ready to like let it die. But there's something coming. Like I can feel there's
Yeah.
something coming, and like the next 3 months feel super potent, and it's overwhelming in a good way. But also too, it's the what's next. And she pulled a card for me, and it was opening to discovery, or discovering, or something like that. And it can be easy from a human perspective to, when things feel overwhelming, is to shut down and to like close up. And where can I actually lean in and be a little bit more open, and maybe even like allow myself to be consumed by the overwhelm, but
Hmm.
not in that's an interesting concept that just came through. The being like, what would happen if I just, and when I say I, really anyone who's listening to this, including you, Cassandra, is what if I just let it all in?
Mm-hmm.
What am I so scared of that I think that I can't handle? And it isn't about being consumed by the overwhelm to become debilitated and stuck and frozen. It's when we don't let it all in, we end up stuck and frozen. So, and I'm getting this imagery, I'm talking about superhuman hero, I think a superhero is Jean, the Phoenix in X-Men, right? Where she, if I remember correctly, in that movie slash comic, is that she let herself be fully consumed by her own power, and she became something greater.
Mm.
So where can I tap into that a little bit more?
Yeah. No, I love that. Just feeling it, like not bypassing the human, because it's easy to want to go to the spiritual
Mm-hmm.
and to tap into that like limitless energy, but really honoring the spaciousness of where you are now. And yeah, for me, I always find, because there's just so many ideas that come down in this recent season, it was like, I feel like I needed to create space for the clarity to come. So I feel like sometimes there's these moments where we have to let things go to create space for what's going to come and for the clarity to come. So it's such a leap of faith to like let things go that are good when you don't even know what's coming next. But I feel like that invitation is a big one, right? Going back to that box in the room, it's like you have to get rid of some of the boxes to create space for the new ideas to like be planted in that space. So I think it's a combination of the both. It's being present with it and then taking that step of creating space, being
Mm-hmm.
open, and then being open to receive. Because it's like if you're in a room with boxes all the way, there's nowhere for you to sit and ponder and receive.
That is very true.
So I'm seeing that like polarity of being in a room and there's no room for you to sit. You can't even walk in the room because there's so much stuff there. So I think it's interesting just thinking of like just this season and this ending of karma and just feeling lighter. Like a big image that I had yesterday for myself was like carrying stuff in the backpack. Like remember when we did Warrior and we had to climb up the mountain, right? And it's like sometimes we're carrying so much stuff that's making it more of a strenuous journey. Like, I'm carrying so much. I'm carrying so much. So I feel like I'm in this like unloading season and just having that, ooh, I'm ready to let that go moment. And just taking it off just feels so freeing. Um, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. That imagery, I use that a lot with clients when we're talking about values, things that are important, the beliefs that we hold is like, it's like you're walking up a mountain with a backpack on, and it's important to take it off and look inside and see like, what are you actually carrying?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need that 5 cans of lima beans just because your grandmother said they're good for you?
Right.
You know, and then like, oh, well, you have lima beans, but now all your strawberries on the bottom of the bag and now they're crushed. And, so how are you carrying things? How are you packing your backpack? I think that's a great metaphor, generally speaking, for us is where can we pause and review. How are you walking? What are you carrying? Is this the way you want to do it? And it doesn't make it doesn't make it wrong. It's more so, is this working for you the way that you're doing it? And it might have for a period of time. And you might realize that, actually, this one piece, I can set it down. Someone else might want it. I can put it on the side of the trail because what if somebody else, might find that beneficial?
Yeah.
And then, reorganizing and also making sure that what you're carrying like aligns with you now, and that's going to change in another mile, 2 miles, 20 miles. So giving yourself that space to reevaluate, I think, yeah, that's really important.
And I think it's totally in alignment with fall too, right? Because like
Hmm.
the trees are losing their leaves, the flowers are dropping their petals, and you're like, but you were so beautiful. Like you were so gorgeous to look at, right? But there's this trust and this surrendering of just let it go, and something more beautiful is going to come in the next season. So I think it's interesting how nature always, we always talk about nature on the podcast, but how it mirrors this process that we go through on our human experience. So
Yeah.
very interesting stuff. Especially if you're in the northern hemisphere, you'll have that beautiful reminder in
And I
these
think
coming months.
too, this conversation's reminding me I'm in a master class right now. And one of the things that was talked about in the class was our life is like a story, right? Or you think of it like a movie if you want. And that good stories have struggle. Good stories have obstacles. Good stories have some sort of thing that the hero needs to overcome. It's not a really good story if like, oh yeah, that was easy. Oh yeah, I got the thing I wanted without even having to do much effort. So, the challenges that we go through is there for a reason. It isn't so much about, well, what's the reason? It doesn't have to be about figuring out why. It's more so this is happening. So who am I going to be through it? And how do I want to let this be something that helps me grow, helps me expand, helps me learn more about myself, that then becomes a really good story. And so I when I heard that, I was like, like, yeah. And where have I been lackadaisical? Where have I been just coasting along rather than utilizing this as whatever this is, but whatever journey, whatever season that I'm in is that, okay, that whatever is happening and who do I want to be while I'm moving through it, that then makes for a really great story.
Mm. I love that. I love that. And I think it connects even deeper for us as spiritual entrepreneurs because we go through these challenges to overcome, and they can often be really deeply connected to our purpose
Hmm.
for people, and have something to share. Like yesterday, when I was having my session with my coach, she was saying, hey, I just overcame this, like, you know, recently. And then she was helping me through it. So it's kind of like you're passing the baton of wisdom to the people that are like magnetically attracted to you in whatever season of life. So I think that that's even more of like a special reminder for us to give ourselves when we're in the thick of it, of hey, I'm going through this to me, but for me, but this is also going to help people once they get on the other side of it too.
Yeah. And I think on the other side of that, the polarity of it is, we have these experiences that feel very dramatic and feel very problematic. And when that happens, it's easy to remember, it's easy to recognize. It's the day-to-day stuff. And I notice this sometimes because when I think about my business and I think about, you know, Instagram stories, Instagram reels, posts, there'll be days that go by where nothing's happening in my day for me to share anything. And yet I'm seeing, especially as a therapist, I'm seeing anywhere from 6 to 7 clients a day. And not that I'm necessarily wanting to share, about that on social media, but more so there's concepts that I talk about. There's things that I move through in my day. And it can be quite easy. And I don't know if this happens for you, but for me, it can be quite easy for me to just be like, nothing happened, I have nothing to share. Uh, and how that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's very easy for me to dismiss my day-to-day life that of being not important, not I mean not that it's not important, but not interesting. That there has to be something interesting for me to share. And then how I define that and how I put like importance on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I also feel like, that was coming through that, yeah, there's the stories to tell about the big obstacles. And we think that the day-to-day life isn't worth telling either. Or at least I find that I have gotten into a mindset of my day-to-day life isn't that interesting to share. There's no story to tell. And there's a level of dead space and almost waste with that. I'm like, well, then what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a zombie. I'm not a robot. And so as I'm talking, it's the realization of the mindset shift that I want to have around how I view my day-to-day life. And what's one thing that I can be aware of in my day where I can then recognize that's a story. That's important. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be something huge. Like, this past week, there was 3 days that was just really chaotic and dramatic, which is going to make for a really good story. But, the weekend, the other days of the week of the month that maybe wasn't as dramatic, that's not important. That doesn't mean anything. So I'm just having that epiphany right now that the habit that I've been in is actually, and how it's not serving me. And that I want to start a practice of every day recognizing something that matters, that I potentially could share. Because I recognize I'm a leader. I recognize I'm here to use my voice. I'm here to teach. I'm here to provide wisdom. And there's something every day that moves through me
Mm-hmm.
that I find that I have been dismissing.
Yeah. It's interesting because I felt the same way. I'm here and doing my day-to-day life. I'm fairly much a homebody, it feels like, I want to share. And then you did that whole year of reels. So I got
That
this
was hard. That
I
was so
know.
hard.
I got this drop down about a few months ago to go every day in stories, because stories is this thing that I had a lot of resistance to. So yeah, there might be human things, but I've also realized that sometimes when the day-to-day human life isn't exciting and there's not something to share, I've realized that I also have my intuition that can always give me a drop down. So just tuning in for a few minutes, what am I supposed to share today? And just writing that in a story. So that's been something that's been helpful too. Is that if
Yeah,
there's
I
something
I know.
mentally, there's something spiritually that is meant to come down.
Yeah, no, I get that. And what I found was for me, because I did a 365 Facebook Live series, and then I did a 365 Instagram Reel series, and then I wanted to do a 365 written content series. And I did that for several months. And then I recognized where I was pressuring myself, that it's almost as if my channel just nope, we're not giving you any information. Because I also was noticing, as if I look back on it, this whole thing of nothing important is happening in my day-to-day life, and I have to somehow magically pull something out. And so now I'm wondering if I actually came at this in a different way, in the sense of everything matters and everything is interesting and there's always something, if that, what that would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel complete for today. How about you?
Yeah, I do too.
Amazing. So we want to thank you for tuning in to the episode today. We would really appreciate if you would rate and review the podcast and follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube at the Limitless Human Podcast.
I just went someplace else.
Do you have something else to come up to share?
No, I just all of a sudden I'm seeing your lips moving and I hear your voice but like my mind just went. I think I'm still it's I'm processing what we just talked about. Like, I felt very big, like this big conversation, and so my brain is in this kind of it went someplace else as my soul is trying to integrate the information. So I have no idea what just happened.
I feel ya. I feel ya. I love that. We're so
Just being
keeping
honest, just being real.
we're still keeping this in. And, we post episodes every other Thursday, so come
Tuesday.
Tuesday, Tuesday. So come and, tune in for the next one. Thank you for being here, and, we'll see you again soon.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.